All right, welcome back to the channel. This is Tyra from the Nosebleeds. Just want to say thank you all for joining in, watching the NFL preview show. And wrestling content is back. So welcome to the Nosebleed section. And today we are going to start a brand new series on this channel, which is retro reviews. I know a lot of YouTube channels do it, so why not just throw my hat into the ringer on that? Please hit that like button, share, comment, and subscribe. And today we're going to be talking about the very first Saturday night's main event that aired on May 11th of 1985, about 6 weeks after the very first WrestleMania. On this card, we have Cyndi Lauper going down the aisle with Wendi Richter to face against Fabulous Moolah for the Women's Championship. Hulk Hogan versus Bob Orton for the WWF Championship. You got the U.S. Express and Ricky Steamboat versus Volkoff, Iron Sheik, and George Animal Steele, with Freddie Blassie on Iron Sheik's side and Lou Albano, Captain Lou Albano, for the faces. And then you have Junkyard Dog versus Pete Donahue, I think he's a jobber. Quick squash match. And this is actually the day before Mother's Day as well, so it's a bit of a Mother's Day celebration for the company as well, so they highlight some of the mothers as well. So we're gonna get all into that with this right now. So let's start off with this. It's the grading system of this channel, right? Every channel has a different grading scale, and this one is gonna have a grading scale as well. Each match will be rated out of 10, okay, and the final score will be based off the averages of those matches. So if we have today, we have 4 matches, it'll be out of those 4 matches, what did each match total end up averaging out to, and that's the final score. And if there's any segments in the if there's any segments in the show that I thought is good enough to highlight, or that I really like, that adds half a point to the show. So if there's let's do simple math, if the show gets a 6 out of 10 based off the match average, then half a segment to say 2 good non-wrestling segments, you got a grand total of 7, because average of the matches and the segments adding half a point to that. So that's going to be out of 10. It could change. This is something new, something fresh. So reason why I decided to go with the very first Saturday night's main event is because Saturday night's main event for December 13th is coming up. At the time of this recording is December 4th, so it's less than 10 days away. So I figure, why not do that? So very long intro, but let's cut to the chase. Let's get off to the start of the show. We kick things off with Cyndi Lauper and Wendi Richter. Wendi Richter is hyping up and basically building up their upcoming match against Fabulous Moolah. Afterwards, they cut to Hulk Hogan and Mr. T, kind of doing the same thing, and Hulk Hogan mentions the fact that he's going to dedicate his match against Bob Orton. He's going to dedicate that match to his mother. Jesse the Body Ventura and Vince McMahon is on the commentary team. This is a classic duo. These guys mesh well together. And then we start off with the opening match, which is Sheik Baby and Volkoff and George Animal Steele versus the U.S. Express and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Barry Windham and Iron Sheik start off this match with a collar and elbow tie-up. Windham gets the early advantage. They end up hitting a drop down leapfrog into the reverse hip toss that Windham hit on Iron Sheik. And then they start working on Sheik's arm pretty much instantaneously after that arm drag hip toss, with frequent tags between Windham and Ricky and Rotunda. Just a very quick pacing to this match overall. A lot of shine for the baby faces, not a lot of heat for the heels, but nonetheless, like, this is a very good pace, very good way to open a card. Essentially, this is a very solid match. Again, but I think all 6 guys were able to shine somehow, some way. Volkoff got in. Even Animal still got in towards the end of the match. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was just flying around here. There was this sequence where he hit a drop. He had a drop kick on, I want to say it was Sheik. He had a drop kick on Sheik and then climbed up to the rope again, Like, he hit a flying drop kick and then climbed up to the rope and hit a flying crossbody. And I just thought, I was like, dude, that is just so insane. So I was like, dude, this is why I love Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He's like, he was so, like, to me, especially the way these wrestlers wrestle today, he was definitely ahead of his time, in my opinion, just based off the footage I've seen back in the 80s and all that stuff. So very quick pacing match, drop kicks, crossbody, but Volkoff saves the pin. And this is crazy because even the break spot going into the break, it was just all this chaos going on around the ring where everybody got in, the heels powder out, and the baby faces stand tall in the ring, and the crowd is going crazy. The match ends with George Animal Steele trying to tag out of the ring after he takes some punches from Wyndham, but instead Sheik, Baby, and Volkoff drops down to the bottom to the ring, which causes Animal Steele not to confuse. He can't make the tag, and Wyndham rolls him up for the 3 count, 1, 2, 3. Post match, George Animal Steele does the iconic ripping the turnbuckle pad, and the foam flying out. I think that's a great visual. I think that's one of the more underrated wrestling visuals ever. It's George Animal Steele just taking off ripping off, like violently ripping off the turnbuckle pad, and you just see all this foam and all this material just flying out and just scattered about throughout the entire ring. And really, they didn't even really like clean up all of it because it seemed like stuck around throughout the entire event. But so as he's doing that, turns around, Sheik and Volkoff attacks him before the baby faces come in and the heels powder out. Lou Albano comes in and calms him down because there's that history between Albano and George Animal Steele. But that causes Animal Steele essentially to be a baby face. They turn him face. I give this a rating of 6 out of 10. I thought it was fast. I thought it was a fun, well-paced match. I thought the faces really got the shine. Didn't really see a lot of heel heat in this match, but the heels did get their stuff in. I just thought this was a good opener of the entire show. I thought this is a good way to actually consider, in fact, this is the very first Saturday night's main event. This is a good way to establish this as a staple for the WWE WWF. So yes, I give this match a 6 out of 10. I do recommend going to go watch this match if you want a quick, very simple 6-man tag team match. There's nothing better for that. This is textbook for that. We get to backstage, or kind of like in the entrance way, where Mean Gene talks to Sheiky Baby and Volkoff. Sheik starts cutting a promo. Freddie Blassie's next to him, but it's not long as the baby faces come in. They start fight him off a little bit. Not a lot of punches, a lot of arguing, really. And then they end up going to the back, and then we move on to the next segment. All right, next up, we got the Piper's Pit. This actually leads up to Hogan versus Bob Orton, but first we got Piper's Pit. Obviously, Roddy Piper. Bob Orton is the bodyguard of Piper, and then you got Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff as the guest. To me, this is like again opening match. Then you get a Piper's Pit, which is really good. Piper tries to talk down to Orndorff, like, "Hey, let's talk man to man. Sit down." There's a bit of like Orndorff sits down. They sit down together. Piper says something, and Orndorff instantly gets hot. Piper does a manipulation of calming him down and everything like that. And tells him to sit man to man. And I love this line by Orndorff. He goes, "Ladies first," and the crowd pops for it. And Piper goes ahead and sit down. He's like, "All right, I'm the lady. I'm sitting down. Now go ahead and sit down." I thought that was pretty good. He demands Bob Orton to back away from both of them so he can talk to him. They immediately start trading barbs, start talking about the WrestleMania match. This is where I found out where this is only 6 weeks after the first WrestleMania. And they pretty much go over what happened. Like, Orndorff is questioning where was Piper during the during the tag team match. Where was he at when he got pinned? And Piper's like, "I'm not the one who lost. You the one who you're the one who got pinned. You're the one whose shoulders went down to the mat. I'm not a loser. You're the loser." Piper calls him a piece of garbage. Tension boy is over. Brawl breaks out. Orndorff fights both of them off for a little bit, not by much. Then Orndorff is able to set up Piper for the power driver, but then Orton had the hit my microphone, had the arm cast on him and hits him in the back of the head, try to go for another attack, but Mr. T runs out, saves Orndorff, and pretty much calms that down. Afterwards, we get Hulk Hogan talking about Piper's Pit, and before he makes his entrance and again dedicates the match to his mother, which we go on to Hulk Hogan versus Bob Orton for the WWF Championship. Orton tries to ambush Hogan early on, but it backfires very quickly as Hogan sees it coming. Hits him with a couple punches. They powder out to the Orton powders out to the ring, to the ringside area. Hogan chases after him. Orndorff goes back into the ring. He runs at Hogan. Hogan hits him with a back body drop. And then proceeds to start to work the arm that has the cast on it. Orton eventually gains control with a Irish whip flying knee type of thing, and slows down the pacing of the match. And this is where Orton is getting his heat. A lot of rest holds to calm the crowd down. And then he starts throwing the punches. Hulk Hogan starts to Hulk up, dude. And, hits the comeback, hits the punches. Irish whip. I'm expecting the big boot because I'm used to I'm expecting the U and then the 3 punches and then the Irish whip into the big boot into the leg drop. But none of that. Hulk Hogan's like, yeah, brother, get ready to get buried, brother. And then he hits the 3 punches, hits a clothesline, but then it hits a clothesline, leg drop. Orton kicks out at 2. So I was very stunned by this. I was like, wow, Orton kicked out at 2. So again, a little bit more of Orton getting some more heat, but then Hogan fights right back underneath again, and actually goes straight for the finish, but he's close enough to Piper where Piper ended up punching Hogan in the face and causes disqualification. And during the match, there was that tension between Piper and Mr. T. They were kind of like getting very close to each other, throwing jabs at each other. You really can't hear what they're saying, but they're yelling at each other. This and the third. Afterwards, Mr. T jumps in, but Orton and Piper beats him down. And this is after Hogan is already beaten down. And then as they're cornering Hogan, Orndorff comes in, finally gets the help, makes it a 3-on-2 standoff because Mr. T is coming from behind them and they go and chase him, but the heels powder out before you have a chance to touch him. And you have to remember, not only is this a huge deal for that crowd at the time, with WrestleMania 1's main event with Orndorff facing against Hogan, but now he's teaming or helping out Hulk Hogan against the guy that he teamed up with. But a lot of people know my wrestling peers, but this is for the people who either forgotten or don't know, is that Orndorff was Hogan's right hand man. They had all those vignettes of them working out together, and Orndorff had Hogan's back and Hogan had his back and everything. But then Bobby Heenan comes in and he's like, you're playing second fiddle to him, and you don't need to playing second fiddle. He's not giving you a chance. Kind of similar to what they did with Andre the Giant, but this one was a little bit more personal because they really built up Hogan and Orndorff being 2 peas in a pod, and here comes Bobby Heenan to basically squash that all. So Orndorff finally turns on Hulk Hogan, and that goes on the heel run, and that's what sets up his portion into that main event, that very first main event. I have to look very, very deep in my memory to figure out how all the pieces come together. I just know it comes together, but I know that's one of the main things. I get this match a 4 out of 10. With this one, it was nothing special, but everything was good. Everything was solid across the board to me. I think 4 out of 10 is a good spot for this, and it's not an insult, but it's a classic Hogan match, which is nothing wrong because Hogan knew how to fight underneath as a babyface. He was so great at fighting underneath as a babyface, and it showed again here. But to me, the post match was a little bit better with that 3-on-2 standoff and everything like that. Afterwards, we get a pre-tape of Fabulous Moolah talking about her upcoming match with Wendi Richter. There's a dark match going on. That's how I know this is pre-tape because all the other interviews that they did, this is weird. I don't know if she wasn't available to do this or maybe I don't know what happened, but I know all the other interviews were either live or just live, just before all that stuff. But it looked live because even when Hogan was cutting his pre-match promo, Piper's Pit was still set up in the background, and with Moolah, there's a whole nother match. And it's not the tag team matches, but and I think it was a dark match. I want to say because it didn't look like any of the participants in the 6-man tag, and you can tell because the crowd is not like paying attention to what she got going on or what she's saying. They're actually focused on the ring. You can actually hear them kind of rise up because something happens in the ring. You can actually see the wrestlers or see one of the wrestlers hitting the ropes. So we know that this is a pre-tape. So to me, I thought that was a little hilarious, a little weird, but whatever it may be. But Moolah basically explains the simple fact that like Cyndi Lauper has interfered in the matches with Wendi Richter in the past, and even at WrestleMania she interfered. So she had went to the WWF authorities to have Cyndi Lauper banned at ringside. So now we get Fabulous Moolah versus Wendi Richter, which Moolah is already in the ring. Wendi Richter comes out with Cyndi Lauper and somebody else, but Moolah gives the paper to Howard Finkel that states that Lauper was banned at ringside because they cut their pre-match promo as well, and Lauper was mad that she was like, you're not going to ban me, I'm going to be right there with Wendi Richter, but Howard Finkel read the letter, and then the referee enforced that letter in that decision. Very quick match between these two. I mean, it's a women's match in the 1980s. It's not going to get 15-20 minutes. I would have been stunned. Just a quick match, couple quick back body drops for Moolah. Moolah was hanging on the ropes, and not like tied up in the ropes, but kind of like hanging on the ropes, trying not to get up. Couple of alley-oop slams by Wendi Richter, and then I forgot what move. I think Moolah was going for she was going for a scoop slam, but Wendi Richter was able to turn that into a small package roll up for a 3 count. Wendi Richter still defends the women's championship. She defended that successfully. There's nothing going on in this match. This match gets a 2 out of 10. Mother Day segment with Junkyard Dog, where Junkyard Dog celebrates his mother. Mom gets a good pop. Junkyard Dog gets a huge pop as he's making his entrance to the ring. Next up, we get Pete Doherty versus Junkyard Dog. The one thing I wrote about Pete here is that he is Sheamus without the muscle mass and blonde hair. Like, dude was massively pale, man. There's nothing right about this match. This match was a squash match. This was a Junkyard Dog versus maybe Pete had a decent run somewhere, but I never heard of it. I was like, who is that? So I just see it as like a jobber match, especially since Pete didn't really get any offense. Like, he tried to like talk to Junkyard Dog mom, and Junkyard Dog wasn't having it. Like, he even pulled him up by the hair. Like, Junkyard Dog was standing on the apron. He was pulling up by the hair. That looked very painful. But a few other Junkyard Dog headbutts, the infamous headbutts, power slam gets 3 count, 1, 2, 3. Match rating 1 out of 10. I won't rate any matches out of 0 unless it's that bad, and this one wasn't a bad showcase match. Afterwards, Junkyard Dog gets JYD, gets his mom in the ring, dances afterwards, and then we get the final segment, which is Cyndi Lauper's Mother Day celebration. And I saw this, and Vince McMahon's like, oh, Cyndi Lauper, Mother Day celebration coming up soon. I was like, oh, my goodness. I'm not watching this crap. I'm like, typical Vince stuff. But this was actually entertaining as well. This was, to me, it was hilarious. One, Sheiky baby. Iron Sheik cutting a promo about, like, how sick and tired he is of being, like, so far away from his mother. It was just a thing of beauty, man. And, like, you can barely understand the words because it's Iron Sheik. But it was still amazing. This is very exciting. Junkyard Dog had his mother there. Mean Gene asks his mom, like, how proud of you are. And she's like, yeah, I'm very proud of my son. She cuts the promo. Volkoff cuts the promo. Freddie Blassie says, this is my mother. Now, the woman looked like just about his age, maybe a little bit younger than him. And Mean Gene is like, dude, that's not your mother. He's like, yeah, it is. And then Mean Gene, like, tries to, like, go for, like, a hug or a kiss or something like that. And, like, Freddie Blassie almost slapped the piss out of him or some shit like that. I thought that was very good. Hogan cuts a promo about his mom. His mother is there. His mother is, expressing how proud she is of her. This is a 3-minute clip, about almost 4-minute clip that you can find on YouTube. I'll link it down in the description down below. Then Moolah storms in after Cyndi Lauper. Cyndi Lauper's talking about her mom. Cyndi Lauper's mom is there. Wendi Richter, wishes her mom a happy Mother's Day. And then Moolah comes in and she just like starts trashing Cyndi. She's like, how can you have a Mother's Day celebration without me? I raised a fine daughter. And she like starts shitting on Cyndi Lauper's mom. It's like, look what type of daughter you raised. Look at the hair that she got. Like, this is ridiculous. And like, eventually Cyndi Lauper gets tired of it and like shoves Mean Gene and Moolah into the cake. And Mean Gene is just selling the crap out. He's like, look at the mess we got into. And then like Lauper throws like the half of a cake right at Moolah. Then Moolah throws it back. So it's a little bit of chaos there. But nonetheless, I thought this was a very surprisingly, I was very surprised about how good this segment played out. Like, this was very entertaining. Like, it was simple. It had a little bit of like chaos, had a little bit of uncertainty. Moolah comes in, she cuts a good promo. We know what we think about Fabulous Moolah. But nonetheless, like, as far as like her personality, like her aura, her like, her character and stuff like that, she had it down packed. She played an excellent heel. And she played very well that she hated Cyndi Lauper. I thought that was very well done as well. Afterwards, we get a small recap with Jesse the Body Ventura looking so fly, looking so nice, man. Like, that outfit, I was in the Navy SEALs, McMahon. So the show ends with Ventura, and Vince asks Ventura what the highlight of the night was, and he's like, well, let me tell you something, Vince McMahon. It's about the Piper's Pit. Bob Orton annihilated Mr. Blunderful, like calls him Mr. Blunderful, Paul Orndorff. And then Vince asks him, like, it kind of goes over what his thought on the WWF Championship match. And like, even though Hogan like lost on the disqualification, Hogan got punched in the face. Ventura's like, oh, Hulk Hogan cheated. He used every rule against the book to cheat the match. He cheated, and Orton would have had the match, McMahon. McMahon. And like, I fought in the Navy SEALs, McMahon. So another, like, Ventura is like the quintessential heel commentator. Like, he is what a heel commentator is supposed to be. Him and Bobby Heenan are like great heel commentator, two of the best, I would say two of the best heel commentators of all time. So yeah, I mean, if you want to be a heel commentator, just listen to Jesse the Body Ventura. It kind of sucks they're not going to have him on Saturday night's main event no more, because we know why. He buried that steel cage ending. And he's like, what do you mean he gets to walk out the door, Michael Cole? This is, so no, we don't get to see Jesse anymore, which sucks, because he, to me, his unpredictability, regardless if he was with Joe Tessitore or with Michael Cole and Pat McAfee, like, because you didn't know what he was going to say, it had you glued in, because even at his age, he's still entertaining. Like, he's not 80s Ventura, but like, he's still entertaining nonetheless. So overall grade of the show is a 5 out of 10. It's a 5 out of 10 because it averaged out to about what, 3.5, 3.5, and then like or close to 4, something like that. And then the two segments, I thought the Mother's Day celebration segment was good. Piper's Pit was absolutely phenomenal. So, and very surprised by the Mother's Day segment, by the way. The matches were good, or, like the WWF Championship match was solid. The opening match was a very good match. That was match of the night. Like I said, Piper's Pit was great. The Mother's Day segment was great. So yeah, the two segments, those 0.5 points boosted up from a 4 to a 5. So this is a 5 out of 10 match. I think if you have nothing else to watch, or you just want to watch some solid classic wrestling, this is the way to go. And there's nothing, nothing bad I can really say about this show for real. From the start to the finish, it did keep me glued to the TV for the most part. I wasn't dreading watching the show. I will say that. I wasn't like wishing the show would hurry up. I wasn't wishing for none of that. And I think that's pretty darn good, especially a show from the 80s. And that's not even the shit on like 80s wrestling, because I'm a person who likes 80s wrestling and everything like that. But like, this is a good watch and is a good follow-up for WrestleMania. It really is. So yeah, I would give this a score out of 5, out of 10, out of 10, a 5 out of 10. Just an average show. You're not gonna get bored watching this, and you're not gonna want to turn it off neither, because even Vincent Ventura's commentary is great. Just the crowd reactions is great. That's very well produced for its time. And yeah, I thought this was solid. I thought this was a solid show all the way around. Even the matches that got a lower grade, because they were quick matches. They were very quick matches. Nothing really to write home about. So yeah, that is the review for the very first Saturday night main event. This is the channel's very first retro review, and it's been like what 2-3 months since I've done a wrestling video in general. So we're gonna be doing more of that. Like I said, the next one we'll be talking about John Cena. The next wrestling video will be talking about John Cena, and it's really gonna be a kind of like a personal homage to, I think that's how you say that word, homage or homage or whatever you want to call it, to John Cena. Is my thoughts of John Cena as I watched him grow up. And I know there's going to be a lot of videos on that, so I'm going to do it as well. And then we're going to do another retro review. I don't know of what yet. We might, I think December is, I forgot what pay-per-view is coming up for this month for WWF, or WWE, excuse me. And I'll figure that out. If it's one of those ones that have had a continuous show, maybe I'll do an anniversary show for that. So again, I want to thank you all for watching. Please hit that like button. Please share. Please comment. Please subscribe. And thank you all for joining the Nosebleed section. Thank you all for coming to the Nosebleed section. This is Tyrell from the Nosebleeds, signing off.